Oke, balik guys. Sorry, lama. Oke. Kita balik lagi ya, teman-teman. Masuk guys. Kayak biasa, teman-teman ya. Oke, good. Let's go. Ayo.
Engine 11, Engine 34, Squad 34, Rescue 30. Respond for a vehicle fire. We have no word on injuries. The vehicle is blocking the roadway and is interfering with traffic. We're advising CHP.
Come on. Okay.
Engine 9, Rescue 209. Respond for an unknown medical. RP says that she saw a subject suddenly fall to the ground.
On the way.
Nah, mending aku matikan mic-nya ini ya, soalnya agak ribet banget sini cuy. Oke, biar enak fokus mainnya. Oke.
What's up? On my way. Consider it done. What's up? What's up? On my way.
Engine 57, Rescue 64. Respond for 1056A. Subject is threatening to take his own life. PD is also responding.
On our way. On our way. What's up? On our way. Will do. Listening. On my way. I'm on it. On my way. On my way. What's up? On my way. On my way. What's up? Listening. Consider it done. What's up? On our way. Yeah, will be done immediately. On our way. Listening. On our way. Yeah? On our way. On our way.
Engine 33, Squad 34, Rescue 57. Respond Respond for a fall victim. RP is calling from the area and says that she witnessed the subject falling, but the subject
On
has
our
not
way.
gotten up.
Yeah? I'm on it. Listening. Yeah. On our way. Yeah? On our way. Will do. On my way.
Attention all units. Respond for a 415 fight involving several subjects. We have no description on any of the subjects and no word on weapons or injuries. Be advised that fire medical will stage. Engine 33, Squad 34, Rescue 64. Respond for an unknown medical. Subject appears to be lying down.
On our way. On my way.
Listening. I'm on it.
Engine 33, Squad 34, Rescue 57. Respond for a fall victim. RP is calling from the area and says that she witnessed the subject falling, but the subject has not gotten up.
On my way. On my way. On my way. Listening. Listening.
Units, respond
Consider it
for
done.
488. RP is calling from his business where he witnessed the subject putting merchandise in his pocket. The subject has left the business and is on foot, heading southbound. No weapons,
Yeah.
no description.
I'm on it. On my way. What's up? Will do. On our way. On my way.
Attention all units. We have reports of a man with a gun. Several RPs have indicated that they see a subject, unknown description, with a gun, and he's firing shots at passing vehicles. Units also be advised that we're getting reports of shots fired in that area. All units break and cover. Fire and rescue will stage. Be advised that we have Air 32.
On our way. On the way. On the way. On the way. What's up? What's up? On the way. On the way.
9, 11, Squad 57, Rescue 257. Respond for a multiple vehicle accident with multiple subjects trapped. Be advised that MCU is also responding and PD is responding as well.
On our way. Listening. On the way. On our way. Listening. On the way. Will do. On the way. On the way. On the way. Yeah. Will be done immediately. What's up? On the way. On the way. Yeah. On our way.
On our way. Listening. Roger. On my way.
On our way. On the way. Understood. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. On our way. On the way. What's up? Let's go. Yeah? On the way. What's up? Consider it done. Consider it done. On our way. What's up? On the way. Consider it done. Yeah? On the way. On the way. Yeah. On the way. Listening. Yeah. Listening. Okay. On our way. Let's go. Got it. On the way. On the way. On the way. Listening. Yeah. What's up? On our way. Okay. On our way. Listening. On the way. Let's go. Yes, sir. Listening. On our way. Yes, sir. On the way. What's up? Let's go. Listening. Will be done immediately. On our way. Listening. Okay. Yeah. Listening. What's up? Let's go. Listening. On the way. Let's go. What's up? On the way. Listening. Listening. Okay, on the way. Let's go. What's up? On my way. Done immediately. Yeah. On my way. On our way. Listening. On the way. On our way. What's up? I'm on it. On the way. What's up? On my way. Yeah. On the way.
Yeah? Let's go. What's up?
On the way. On the way.
Yeah? Consider it done.
Listening.
Consider it done.
On the way.
What's up? On our way. Let's go.
What's up? On our way.
Let's go.
Yeah? Listening. On our way. Yeah? On my way. Yeah? Consider it done. On the way. Yeah? On our way. Will be done immediately. What's up? I'm on it. On the way. Listening. On the way. Will be done immediately. What's up? On our way. What's up? Yeah? On our way. What's up? On the way. Listening. On our way. On our way. Listening. On the way. On the way. What's up? On the way. On the way. Listening. On the way.
What's up? Consider it done.
Listening. On the way. On the way. On the way. Yeah? Roger. Confirming. On our way. Yeah? Will be done immediately. On the way. Listening. Yeah? Yeah? On the way. Will do. What's up? What's up? On the way. Yeah? On my way. Let's go. What's up? I'm on it. What's up? Yeah? What's up? On our way. Will be done immediately. Listening. On the way. I'm on it.
Listening. On my way. Let's go.
Yeah? I'm on it. Listening. On the way. What's up? Listening. What's up? What's up? Yeah? On the way. On our way. On the way. What's up? What's up? Listening. Listening. Yeah? Will be done immediately. Listening. On my way. Yeah? On our way. On the way. On our way. Listening. Will be done immediately. Yeah. Will be done immediately. Listening. On the way. What's up? On our way. Yeah? On my way. Listening.
Yeah? On my way. On our way.
On the way. On our way. On the way. On the way. On our way. Listening. What's up? Will be done immediately. On our way. What's up? Will be done immediately.
Yeah? On our way.
On the way. On the way. Yeah? On the way. Listening. Will do. What's up? Yes, sir. What's up? On our way. Yeah? Listening.
On my way.
On our way. On the way. On the way. What's up? On our way. Let's go. On the way. Listening. On the way. Will be done immediately. Listening. On our way. Yeah. Listening. On the way. What's up? On my way. What's up? On the way. This will be done immediately. What's up? On the way. Will be done immediately. On our way. What's up? On our way. On the way. On our way. Listening. On our way. On my way. Yeah, on the way. What's up? On the way. On our way. On the 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 way. Listening. On my way. Listening. On my way. Yeah. On my way. Yeah, will be done immediately. What's up? On my way. On our way. What's up? On my way. On my way.
Engine 78, Rescue 264. Respond for an unknown medical, possible food poisoning. RP is calling from the market. She's indicating that her friend had eaten at a nearby restaurant and suddenly became ill.
On my way. On our way. Yeah? I'm on it. What's up? Yeah, on my way. What's up?
Engine 77, Rescue 78. Respond for an unknown medical. RP says that she sees a subject lying face down. We're advising PD.
On our way. Listening. What's up? On my way. On my way. Listening. Will be done immediately. On my way.
Listening. Will be done.
On our way. Listening. Will do.
says that she saw
Consider
a
it done.
subject suddenly fall to the ground.
On my way. On my way. What's up? Consider it done. Let's will be done immediately. On our way. What's up? On my way. What's up? Listening. I'm on it. On my way. On my way. Listening. Listening. On our way. On our way. Yeah? I'm on it.
Engine 9, Engine 77, Engine 78, Truck 64, Battalion 209. Respond for a structure fire possibly caused by an electrical appliance. Be advised there are injuries.
On my way. Yeah?
Engine 77, Rescue 78. Respond for an unknown medical. RP says that she sees a subject lying face down. We're advising PD.
On our way. On the way. On our way. On our way. On the way. On the way. On our way. On the way. Yeah? Let's go. On the way. On the way. On our way. What's up? On our way. On the way. Yeah, will be done immediately. What's up? On our way. On our way. my way. What's up? On my way. On my way. Yeah, on our way. Consider it done. Listening. On my way. Yeah, on our way. Listening. No problem. On our way. Yeah. Will do. On our way. Consider it done. Listening. On my way. On our way. Consider it done. On our way. Listening. On my way. On my way. What's up? Yeah. Will do. What's up? On my way. No problem. Yeah. Yeah, on my way. What's up? On my way. On our way. On my way. Listening. I'm on it. We'll be done immediately. Listening. On my way. Consider it done. On my way. On my way. Listening. On our way. On the way.
Engine 33, Squad 34, Rescue 57. Respond for a fall victim. RP is calling from the area and says that she witnessed a subject falling, but the subject has not gotten up.
On the way. Listening. Will do. What's up? On my way. On my way. I'm on it. Yeah. Will do. Listening. Yes. Listening. Will do. What's up? Consider it done.
Engine 77, Rescue 78. Respond for an unknown medical. RP says that she sees a subject lying face down. We're advising PD.
On my way. On my way. Listening. Listening. On my way. I'm on it. On my way. On my way. Yeah. On my way.
RP is calling from his business where he witnessed the subject putting merchandise in his
On
pocket.
our way.
The subject has left the
Listen.
business and is on foot, heading southbound. No weapons.
I'm
no
on it.
description.
What's up?
Attention all units. Respond for a 415 fight involving several subjects. We have no description on any of the subjects and no word on weapons or injuries. Be advised that fire medical will stage.
Yeah, will be done immediately. On our way.
Engine 9, 11,
What's up?
Squad 57, Rescue 257.
Got it.
Respond for a multiple vehicle accident.
On my way.
Subject's trapped. Be advised that MCU is also responding and PD is responding as well.
On the way.
Listen. On my way. On my way. Got it.
On our way.
Yeah. Roger. On my way. Aye, aye, sir.
On the way. On our way. On the way. What's up?
Units, respond for a 488. RP is calling from his business where he witnessed the subject putting merchandise in his pocket. The subject has left the business and is on foot, heading southbound. No weapons, no description.
On the way. On the way. On the way. Listening. Yeah? Let's go. Will do. Yeah. Listening. On our way. Yes, sir. Yeah? On our way. Yeah? On our way. Listening. What's up?
On our way. On our way. On my way.
Attention all units. We have reports of a man with a gun. Several RPs have indicated that they see a subject, unknown description, with a gun and he's firing shots at passing vehicles. Units also be advised that we're getting reports of shots fired in that area. All units break and cover, fire, and rescue will stage. Be advised that we have Air 32 responding.
Listening. On it. On the way.
Yeah, on my way.
What's up? Yeah? Listening. On our way. Confirming. Yeah. On our way. Consider it done. On the way.
Engine
On our way.
9, Engine 77, Engine 78, Truck 64, Battalion 209. Respond for a structure fire possibly caused by an electrical appliance. Be advised there are injuries.
Listening. I'm on it. Yeah. Will be done immediately. On our way. What's up? On the way. Yeah.
On my way.
On the way. Understood. Listening. Understood. On our way. What's up? No problem. On the way. Yeah. On the way. Consider it done. Understood. Yeah. Will do. Yeah. On the way. No problem. What's up? On the way. Consider it done. Listening. On the way. Yeah. On our way. On our way. Listening. On our way. Yeah. On the way. On the way. Listening. On the way. Yeah.
Yeah?
Listening. On the way. Yeah. On our way.
Engine 33, Squad 34, Rescue 64. Respond for an unknown medical. Subject appears to be lying down.
On our way. What's up? Will do. What's up? On the way. I'm on it. What's up? Consider it done. Yes, sir. What's up? Confirming. What's up? Consider it done.
Attention all units. We have reports of a suspicious person fire will also respond, but they will stage.
On my way. On my way. What's up? Yeah? On my way. What's up? On my way. I'm on it. On our way. On our way. Yeah? On our way. On the way. On the way. Immediately. Yeah, will do. What's up? Yeah, on the way.
Alah, pakai kekas lagi segala. Ya udahlah, mending segini aja stream kali ini. Udah mau jam 12 malam. Gua mau coba makan dulu. Oke, see you in the next streaming.